What is going on, everyone? AP over here at Run Pier Sports, bringing to you the Lineup Builder Show with our partner Sabersim, coming off a fun Sunday. We got Rubio Dimes, we got Statsational. John, what's going on, my man? Let's bring you in first. How was Sunday?
Not the best Sunday. I've had better Sundays. Certainly betting wise, and you know what was the killer? It was survivor pools. That was the killer yesterday.
Cowboys.
I was in one pool where you had to have double pick, and I had every pick had at least one Dallas or one Jacksonville in it. And I was in great shape. I had only lost one. I had 24 entries. I had 23 going into yesterday, and I have 0 going into next week in that one. It was double picked, made it real tough, and then some other big ones. I took some pretty big hits. So that was tough. And DFS wasn't the greatest for me, but
I don't mean to like twist the knife because I know you're a Cowboys fan, but have we ever seen a team that just can look so dominant, look like the best team in the league by far, not even close, and then do what they did on Sunday? I mean, that was crazy.
The Jacksonville game when I'm in a group, like a big group in one of these really large pools, and like right last week they said, all right, four big favorites next week, like who's the one that has the best shot of losing? And I think everyone was kind of in agreement, like, well, Jacksonville, I wouldn't be shocked if they lost that game. I wasn't shocked, surprised, but not shocked. Of all of them, I thought Dallas was the one. I'm like, there's no way Dallas is losing. Like, Dallas is not losing to Arizona. I don't buy into the whole tanking thing. Teams don't tank on the field. Like, teams will tank in the front office. They're not putting a good product out there, hoping to get the first pick. But the actual players and coaches don't tank. So I don't really buy into that narrative. But they just don't have don't have good personnel. The crazy thing about Arizona is they could be 3-0 right now.
I know, man. It's wild. It is wild. Absolutely.
They had Washington on the ropes. They certainly should have beat the Giants. And then they put up it was a pretty good performance yesterday, obviously. Dallas was the number one offense, number one defense coming into that game. I didn't expect the offense to be number one, but certainly that defense should be near the top. But maybe the injuries kind of hurt more than I thought they would yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, James Conner, just the ultimate pro. Rondell Moore, really impressive. They've been competitive. They really have. I didn't see it coming. I don't think a lot of people did. But Rubio, my man, I'm in the hot tub last night. And actually, the wife joined me. It was kind of nice. But we're watching the game, got the game on. I pull up the lobby. I see Rubio Dimes up top. Thought about texting you. I thought you were locked in, my man. I mean, Rubio, the heater. I mean, you're on this awesome run right now. And again, I told you, stay hot, stay in it. But that last touchdown, what happened? Walk the people through, because you're winning 121K, something like that, or 110K.
It was just
Showdown can be so brutal, man.
It just sucks because they were down to the one, and I knew what needed to happen. It needed to be a Jacobs run. He gets the pitch, gets stuffed. Next thing you know, Garoppolo throws a touchdown. Not a huge deal, right? Okay, I probably would have lost anyway. Then you find out you lose by less than 4 with a Jimmy G fade. It was just like, oh, damn. Then they got the 2-point conversion too. Just, a little extra salt in the wound and stuff. But hey, keep putting yourself in a position to do well, and good things will happen. So, maybe this is just a minor setback. Who cares? 100K, it's gone. I'll win that back, but I'll win it next slate. I'll win it today. Why not?
My mistake, and actually I feel kind of like a donkey. And sometimes, your Sundays are tough. You're grinding all day, then you get the games on. I actually played the afternoon slate also, just was doubling down on my dusty-ass Justin Fields play, which was not good. I got the Pat Freiermuth. I mean, he had an awesome game for him. He got the tutty, got 3 or 4 catches. I captained him. I didn't need to. And all day long, I'm like, no matter what, I'm locking Devontae Adams captain because the target distribution tree that we're seeing with this team right now is so defined, where if you look what the Raiders doing, it is all Devontae Adams, all Jacoby Myers, and then Josh Jacobs. We have a similar thing tonight that we're going to talk about in the Rams. We're seeing a very similar target tree distribution there. And it's going to make the slate a lot of fun, to break down with you guys. But I got a little too cute. I went with the Friarmouth captain, jamming in all the studs, which can work. I was actually on the bubble line. So the thing is Dante Adams created so much separation at the captain. You just had to have him. And that's how it goes. I ran one lineup. We live and learn. We move on. But let's get to tonight's two game slate. Last week, the 2-game slate was insane. The winning lineup: Bryce Young, Chuba Hubbard, Jerome Ford, Adam Thielen. Nice day from Adam Thielen again yesterday. Shout out to Big T for having him in the cord. Shaheed, Chris Olave. I mean, we had 2 backup running backs in the optimal Millie lineup. I don't think tonight's going to be as crazy. We had worse teams, more defensive structured teams last week. But let's break it down. Rubio, let's kick it off to you first. Take us through the base build like we do each and every week.
Yeah, so we'll go ahead and get started. There's a couple things to note. Joe Burrow is likely. There's optimism that he's going to be in. So we'll have to keep an eye on that just to make sure. But you'll see here he's the top projected quarterback with our RPS projections. So that'll be interesting because I'm actually very curious about his ownership. But we'll get to that here in a minute. Let me just uncheck 2 guys, and then let's run just the optimizer. No settings, no randomness, no nothing. And let's see what we get. But
so we have him higher than Hurts. Is that right?
We do, huh? No, I'm an idiot. I don't know why Burrow was at the top of the list. There he is, second highest behind.
Okay, I was going to say, I'm like,
that's a good point right there. Let me change my view. So one of the best things about Saber too is that if I want to go through, I did contest sims and stuff. I wanted to compare things that were like stack wise and everything for Showdown last night. Well, if I don't want it compact, I can just change it and I can give us our traditional look right here. This is an interesting lineup here. I mean, I don't hate it. This is the number one.
Yeah,
good wide receivers across the board. Hurts, but it's weird.
Yeah, I like that. How do we want to do it? Let's break down. So we got our base build set. Let's break these games down. Do we want to go? What do you guys want to do? Position by position or game by game? Rubio, what's your call?
We can do position by position. I think it'll be good to
let's do that
today because there's clear target trees in the Rams and the Eagles. We're going to talk about those, and then all of a sudden you can get a little bit different with even the Bengals. This is a very concise wide receiver slate, so it'll be fun to do position by position.
Yeah, very good. Stats. Let's start with you. Let's go with the quarterback. We got Jalen Hurts versus Baker Mayfield, Matt Stafford, Joe Burrow. I mean, Hurts has to garner a lot of ownership tonight. Arguably the highest projected and safest floor, highest ceiling. What are you doing at the quarterback spot on tonight's 2-game slate?
Yeah, I mean, I've just ranted a little bit this morning. I mean, I was up in the 35 to 40% range on Hurts here. It's going to be tough for any of these quarterbacks really to beat him on the slate. I mean, I can't imagine Baker or even I don't know. It's really difficult for me to imagine one of these guys beats him. If you're mass multi-entering, I think that's the way you got to go. You're going to have to be in the 35 to 50% range, I think, on Hurts. I think if you're doing something less, if you're doing like a three entries or something like that, you might be able to take a shot with one of the other quarterbacks and, in a big GPP. But I got a tough time thinking Hurts is not the number one quarterback here tonight.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we saw kind of a fluke game in week 1 when the Eagles faced the Patriots. Mac Jones was kind of in a position. I mean, the reason that happened was you had some defensive turnovers that created short fields for the Eagles, not a lot of long drive opportunities, and you had Mac Jones at a trailing script. He did throw for over 300 on this Eagles defense. And then I think the following week, Kirk Cousins threw for what, 360 something against this Philly defense. Yes, 364 on this Eagles secondary. So can Baker Mayfield do it? I don't know. But stats, one more question. When you're mass multi-entering, you're targeting the Millie slate tonight, or I think it's 500K. Are you playing all 4 quarterbacks, or are you just going heavy on Jalen Hurts?
No, I'll mix it up. I'll have all 4 quarterbacks in there.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, I can't really differentiate much in the other 3. I think they're really close. So you're going to be kind of evenly spread out with those 3, and I think then the bulk of it just goes on Hurts. But I don't see a reason really to just X out one of these quarterbacks tonight. Certainly not the way I typically play it. So I'm usually trying to get close to the market on these things, and then hoping that I can differentiate myself with maybe one wide receiver or running back in there that is low owned, that pops, that I have in the right lineup. So at the quarterback position, I don't think I'm going to be taking too big of a stand here.
Okay, very good. Rubio, kick it off to you. What are you doing at the quarterback position for tonight's 2-game slate?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't seem like you have to get too creative, right? Like, the pricing of these running backs, no one's above $7K really, right? I think, Joe Mixon's high is 6,300, and then they become wide receivers when you're trying to cram it in. But yeah, you're going to have salary to spend up for Jalen Hurts, and I think a lot of the builds will feel that way. I think I'm going to try, just to run. Yeah, let's see if we ran 500 builds, what the dispersion looks like. Because right now, only 20 builds, it gave us just Baker Mayfield and Hurts. Obviously Hurts, 1,400 more than Burrow. Burrow looks skimpy right now. I think Burrow comes in super low owned, to be honest. For a 2-game slate, that'd be like one way to look at it. Like, what if Burrow says, fuck it, prime time. I'm in my city right now. I'm going to show out. This is just speaking from a Bengals fan, but would it surprise us if he got within touching distance of Hurts, right? And maybe the stacks correlate a little bit better. You never know, right? Maybe that 1,400 is useful. But, obviously with Stafford and Mayfield, I mean, the Eagles are kind of becoming a pass funnel. I mean, you can't really run on them too much. And then when you're playing them, you're usually down. Like, Jalen Carter's a beast and all that too. And inside, like, yeah, I mean, Baker Mayfield's got clear stacking options too. And I think almost every quarterback on the slate has 2 or 3 guys that they throw to. And that's what makes it nice as well, is that no matter what quarterback you play, like, you're going to have exposure across the board. Like, it's going to be a good team. You see here, we just ran a 500 teams, only 3.6% Burrow, and a lot of it still just funnels to Jalen Hurts. So, yeah, I'm with stats. I think, Jalen Hurts is going to be the main guy, and then kind of sprinkle these guys in. I'll probably try and get it overweight on Burrow just slightly, just because if he was completely healthy, he'd probably be, double his own ownership, because I think a lot of people are really nervous about the calf. And, why would you play someone gimpy when you have Hurts right there just above him?
Yeah, so this game for me, so again, I play single entry 3 max primarily, and I'm getting much more defined than, when you multi-enter. This game really sets up, I'm talking about Jalen Hurts and the Eagles, kind of like Josh Allen and the Bills yesterday, and how they absolutely stomped the Commanders. I like the Eagles side in this game. Betting wise, I think Jalen Hurts, just when you look at what Jalen Hurts does, and just using 2022 as an example, I mean, only twice all last season he fell under the second highest projected quarterback on this slate. So naturally, in single entry 3 max, if I'm running three builds in my 3 max, I'm locking Hurts in and moving on. I think in that format, the quarterback position is the easiest one to figure out. It's you lock in Hurts and you move on. And my reasoning is simple: you get the rushing upside, you get the then obviously then if you look at it too, like we've seen other quarterbacks on the season do pretty well against this Tampa Bay team as well. So I just think Hurts in 3 max single entry, you lock him in and you move on. But again, if you're multi-entering, if you're playing 150, as we saw last week on Monday, the 2-game slate, wild stuff can happen. There are paths to where, I mean, Stafford's looked pretty good. I don't like this matchup for him at all tonight against the Bengals, and a Bengals team that really needs to step up, especially defensively. I also think the Rams are kind of frauds. I'll be curious to see what your take is on the Rams, but I just think the simplest path to victory in single entry 3 max formats is you lock in Hurts at the quarterback spot and you move on. And Rubio, you bring up a good point. There's plenty of value. There's no one is really overpriced, especially at the running back position and receiver position on this slate. So it makes it really easy in that type of format. Let's go to running back. Rubio, I'm going to keep it with you. What are you doing with the running backs on this slate?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough to avoid Kyron Williams and Joe Mixon, right? Because you look at it in Tampa. I'm not a huge Rachaad White fan in general. I just don't think he's incredibly good. And then, I guess I got to sort it this way too, just real quick. Running back. So that way we get the true exposures. Yeah, basically it's just heavily concentrated on Kyren Williams, Joe Mixon. Kyren Williams caught 6 passes last week. It wasn't just that he fell into the box twice. He does have a decent floor, and he is guaranteed to get all that work, it seems, barring injury. We had a lot of running backs last week that were guaranteed to get a lot of work that, got hurt on last Monday. So hopefully that's not the case. But Kyren Williams, really good. Then all of a sudden, like Joe Mixon, if we think the Bengals win, Joe Mixon just has to fall in the box to beat these guys. It really becomes a debate when you get to Swift and Gainwell, because they said they're going to ride the hot hand. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers aren't like a huge, good team to run against, really. That's what I was doing right now, is actually pulling up the positional matchups. In years past, the Bucs have always been a pass funnel, right? I don't know. I don't love playing a running back against them at all. And I think I would choose Swift over Gainwell. But Gainwell is also $900 cheaper. He caught a lot of passes in the first game. I think it's going to be tough for me to deviate from Mixon and Williams, but I think Swift and Gainwell maybe mixed in a little bit more, and White kind of on the sideline just a bit.
Yeah, very good. The running back position has been, it's been full variance this season. We saw the highest scoring player on yesterday's slate was a backup running back for the Miami Dolphins, 200-plus yards, rushing, multiple touchdowns, insane game, absolutely insane. Stats, what are you doing with the running back position on this slate?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what Rubio was saying here. First, with the Philly situation, which I think is always kind of one that drives you nuts, and then when you're forced to play it on these short slates, it drives you even more crazy. But I think the price differential is enough to get more on Gainwell here than Swift. And I know Swift had the big week last week, and they kind of want to ride the hot hand, but I think they split. I think they split the carries enough and the targets enough here that you're probably going to get a better value out of Gainwell. The interesting one for me, like Cincinnati's been pretty good against running back, like very good so far this year against running backs. So I'm a little bit. I don't mind being under on Williams. Also, we've seen like McVay with running backs has fooled us in the past. Like I just know like there's been games where we're all in on one running back for them, and then somehow he's got a different running back coming in at the goal line. He's got like McVay and running backs are not my favorite. Like he's hard to predict sometimes. So I could see a situation where Williams is not the top back. That's not going to happen, I don't think, for Mixon. So I think Mixon's kind of the guy who I feel the most confident on the slate by sure. So if you wanted to lock somebody in, I think Mixon would be the guy that I feel the most confidence in right now. Tampa, again, yeah, Rachaad White, don't love. But the question is again, who's going to be the other back here that is used now? Sean Tucker has been. He's been given like some. He's come in there and been given like some just when White is kind of spell him a little bit. But on a slate like this, you kind of have to have. I think you have to have some of the. We saw it last week. You've got to have some of the backup running backs in there. One for injury, and then two for those times where these guys just get the touchdown. If this is their week to get the touchdown on a short slate, they could easily be in the nuts if they're the one running back on that team who gets the touchdown. So I think you have to look at that as well. I'm really looking closely at the Rams and seeing if there's any possibility of one of these running backs that we've got grayed out here possibly can run. So I'm going to be kind of researching that all day today. I don't see it. No one's jumping out at me like Ronnie Rivers or Zach Evans doesn't really pop out at me, but I could certainly see a lot of situations where Williams isn't in the nuts.
Yeah, I'm with you there, and looks like we got a Tampa Bay fan in the chat here. Now again, Rustin, if you were listening to my guy Rubio, who is more athletic than me, shout out to Rubio.
Check out my record.
He was saying Philly is a pass funnel. What did Alexander Mattison do against this team? What did Ramondre Stevenson do against this team? Nothing, man. Absolutely nothing. So again, I'm not playing Rachaad White. I don't trust him at all. I mean, yeah, he got there against the Bears. The Bears are just ass cheeks, man. The Bears are so bad. Pacheco yesterday was running through giant holes. So no, I'm with Rubio on Rashid White being under on him. I just think the game script's not going to be great for him as well. So the tough part for me, I think. I don't know. I think when you look at Kyron Williams and the 10 targets last week, should be a similar script where the targets are going to be there. This goes back to that target distribution tree I was talking about. When you look at the Rams right now, it's all Kyron Williams, Puka, and Tutu. Both games, all three guys are getting a lot of work and no one else is. You have to think, you want to think, I guess that continues. But again, it's the NFL, Sean McVay. I mean, we've been fooled before. We could be fooled again, but I don't think they really have anyone else. And again, I'm with you, Stats. I don't – Ronnie Rivers, Royce Freeman. I mean, who knows? I don't think – I'm going to guess. I'm going to hope that they just stick with Kyron Williams. I think he's going to be mega chalk anyway. So in single-entry 3-max formats, I think it's an easier decision. In multi-entry formats, given what we've seen through 2 weeks so far, I don't blame you at all for looking at these backup running backs. I mean, it's been insane what we've seen. So if you're trying to ship that top prize, I think it's in your favor to do so. The other tough part, Rubio, I'm with you. Swift versus Gainwell. Gainwell obviously went off in week 1. Swift was a beast in week 2 against the Vikings. 28 rush attempts, 30 DK points. I mean, gosh. One of those two guys is going to go off. So Rubio, is that something where you're creating a rule? Are you creating like a simple group rule where you're saying DeAndre Swift or Kenneth Gainwell, or are you fine if both land in your builds in a non-Jalen Hurts quarterback build?
I'd probably max it at 1 between the two. I don't think you have to have either though, just because Jalen Hurts steals all those touchdowns. Like last week, if Swift didn't run for 175 yards, right? Obviously crushed the Vikings defense. But Hurts was the one who vultured at the 1 yard line. I mean, there's a good chance that both these guys fall below, 10 double digits, right? So yeah, I'd probably do a max 1 though, just because of how much of a threat Jalen Hurts is at the goal line, just to steal and vulture. And that's what makes him such a great fantasy quarterback too. Is that
especially if they get it to like 3rd and 1 at the goal line, it's an automatic Hurts touchdown.
Yes.
That play is just insane. Stats, just real quick, touching on that. Are you ever creating a group rule like that, like DeAndre Swift or Kenneth Gainwell, or if they both land in a single build, are you fine with it?
Yeah, I'll leave it on mass with the mass multi-yards rank. So I'll leave it where I'll allow for that to happen. I might sift through the lineups because I'll have a lot of time and maybe just limit if I'm getting a lot of it, which I don't think I will because of the other running backs on here. So I'm not gonna have a heavy percentage, but yeah, I don't mind it because, as you know, short slate, crazy things happen. Now in the regular, if this was a main slate, I wouldn't allow it, right? Because you're not going to get both of these running backs on a large slate. But I think on the short slate, there's a possibility of that happening. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I mean, this game, I think of both games, that's the game that potentially could be a shootout. So we could see a lot of points in that game. Both running backs will catch balls out of the backfield. So there's a potential there that both have decent days. I don't know if they'll have days like the Miami backs yesterday, but there's a potential there. So I'm gonna leave it in for the 150 builds.
So last week we had what I thought was like the easiest 3 running back week ever, and what was optimal for a 4 wide receiver build. Tonight it's I don't know how you're playing 3 running backs like at all. Like I don't get it. This slate is stacked with receivers: AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, Evans, Godwin. We got Chase, Higgins. I mean Puka, Tutu. Like there are so many receiver options. I'm definitely going to be in single entry 3-max, heavily looking at 4 wide receiver builds. Stats. Let's keep it with you. What are you doing with the receiver position this week, given it so stacked at that position?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely stacked. It's nice with the Rams. That's one good thing about McVay is, I mean, you knew Kupp was going to get all the targets. Now it's like Puka's getting all the targets, but so's Tutu, right? So Tutu's getting a lot of the looks here as well. So I think certainly you could have both of these guys in your lineup. Now for Tampa, I know Evans has given you the better numbers here, but I don't think the target share is all that off from where Godwin is, right? Let's see, Godwin's gotten 14 targets to Evans 18 targets. So I mean, it's not a drastic change. Evans has gotten in the end zone, so I wouldn't be shocked to see Godwin, or like I would pretty much rate those guys fairly even right now. And I think of both games, like I said, I think that Tampa game has the best potential to be a shootout type of a game of the two. I think the Cincinnati game is going to be a little bit more of a grinding out game. So I think if we do get to see a lot of point now, the point total is close on both of them. But I think if you look at what Philly's done so far this year, they've been terrible against the quarterback, terrible against the wide receiver. Tampa has been surprisingly good. I mean, Mayfield's been surprisingly good. They're getting points out of the wide receiver position, and certainly Hurts and his receivers are putting up. Well, his receivers actually haven't done that well, but Hurts himself has done well. So relative to the teams that they've played and the averages, I'm just looking at my positional rankings sheet that's up on the site. But Philly's been terrible against the quarterback, terrible against wide receivers. So you could see maybe two of these. Again, this could be a situation where you get both Evans and Godwin. I could see easily on the other game getting Atwell and Puka. You just have a lot of options here. We haven't even talked about Chase, who is probably the best wide receiver of all of them. So yeah, it's very narrow here, and I don't think you have to get too crazy at the wide receiver position. I would get more. I would look for my differentiation at running back and maybe tight end, and I would stick to these core top wide receivers today. I just can't see anyone else sneaking in there.
Yeah, I'm with you too, and I like the call of a potential, or I guess this game more likely to shoot out than the other one. You know, a lot of that too is just when you look at, like, I don't think either team's going to be able to run the ball. I have a lot of respect for Tampa Bay's front. You know, they got Shaq Barrett, Vea in there as well. Like, I think it's going to be tough going to run on either side. But I think both quarterbacks, I mean, more so Jalen Hurts, but I think they're going to be able to air it out. So that's a script that I am locked arm in arm with you on stats. I like that route quite a bit. Rubio, wide receiver position, I mean, stats brought up Jamar Chase, probably up there as one of the best receivers, up there obviously with Justin Jefferson, in the league. But it's been a cold start for Jamar Chase this year. Does he get it right in this matchup against the Rams tonight?
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I mean, I'm with you guys. I think the Tampa Bay and Philly game is more likely to shoot out. And look, we have 4 wide receivers there who actually get targets and stuff. It makes it easy, right? Los Angeles Rams, Cincinnati Bengals. You got 3 options on each team, right? And that's not including, Tyler Higbee for the Rams, right? I don't know. I think I'm with you. I think I'll be jamming in one of these Philly wide receivers in most of my teams, right? Then Tampa, it's easy to go run back with Godwin or Evans. And then like here, though, it's going to be jamming. Like you see how much it's jamming Puka and just these Bengals wide receivers in general. It would make sense in Burrow teams to go with like Higgins and Chase together. Maybe, I don't know. I think I'm really undecided there. I'm gonna have 4 wide receivers in most builds though. That's definitely something that I'll probably do. I do want to mention this though, real quick, just because I saw the question. If it was between Gainwell and White, I would do White. Take the guy with 5 points higher projection, the guy who's going to get 70% of the snaps. But then back to wide receiver though. Yeah, I think I'm going to bump up A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith significantly because, like you said, if both teams have trouble running the ball, these wide receivers are going to get big bumps. I don't think there's any reason. I know they didn't have the best 2 games. Devontae Smith went off in game 2, but I don't think there's any reason for them to have a lower projection than T. Higgins, for example, and stuff. So that's probably the move. I'll be way overweight on the Philly wide receivers. Probably a little slightly concerned with what the Rams are going to do because Awuzie is back for the Bengals. This season he was injured all last season and stuff. He is a great slot corner. I don't know how much success Puka is going to have tonight, and that could be a big stand where I'll probably go a little underweight. I mean, you saw it last week too, where the Bengals limit the offensive capabilities. Like Lamar Jackson did fine, but he didn't do great, and no wide receiver had more than 5 catches. Same with game 1. It felt like that no wide receiver went off. I'm with you guys. I don't know. I think the second game is going to be more of a slugfest, grind it out, typical AFC North type of game. And then the first game would just be like, a shootout potentially.
Yeah, I'm with you there. A couple things, like the fact that Puka has put up monster numbers and has yet to get into the box is really interesting. I mean, 20 targets, 15 targets. Again, you're talking in 2 games to where, like I'm with you, where I think the opportunities are going to be limited. Like these games against, I always think back to like the Chiefs-Bengals games. And one thing that's just so frustrating as a Chiefs fan watching those games is Cincinnati, when they're in their groove, they are so good at these long drives that just drain you, and they limit, it's like keeping Pat Mahomes on the sideline. That's one of the big things that they do. If they can do that tonight against the Rams, then yes, that's going to limit, the opportunities for Kyren, Puka, and Tutu. That I think is a risk. It is hard to like just look at this and be like, gosh, the target tree distribution here is just so insane to those 3 guys, and you're seeing these just, very short routes, and Puka doing it, yards after the catch and everything. So I'm really torn. I think obviously, like in single entry, it's you probably just you click him and move on because he gives you such a strong floor. But again, in larger field stuff, I think you go away from it and you like overstack because what everyone's going to want to do. They're going to want to play him because look at what he's done. What's he hitting? 65% of our builds, and we're like change it to where you're projecting by highest projected. You see how it's small slate on the right?
Highest projected.
In the in the lineups, where it's sorting. Yeah, so change it by highest project. 66. So we're getting a little bit more Puka there. What I was going to say is I could see this slate like absolutely tilting the Twitter proper lineup construction, people out there where you have to have a certain build a certain way. Because I could see this being like a Jalen Hurts naked, where you're playing like Mike Evans run back with, Puka and, 2 receivers from the other or Puka, Tutu, Atwell, and then like Jamar Chase or T. Higgins. Like I could see something crazy like that happening. Again, I'm probably not going to go down that path. I'm just thinking out loud that there's a lot of different ways just from maybe getting off your traditional lineup construction strategy to get different on this slate. And mainly, I think it is a little viable just because you have Jalen Hurts and the rushing upside, the ability to get rushing touchdowns really kind of separates him at that position. And then it's just different. It's almost like last night when you think of the Raiders. Now Jimmy G got there late, but let's just say that last touchdown doesn't happen. Jimmy G was not in the optimum. Now we're talking showdown, but still it makes sense. He needed that last touchdown there to get in the optimal build. I'm saying just because of the sheer targets that you're getting on the Rams side, you could see lots of builds where a Tutu, Atwell, and Puka are in that optimal lineup, but Stafford's nowhere to be found. So I think it's going to be really interesting. I like the Eagles onslaughts. Like I like Jalen Hurts plus trying to find ways to get A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith in there. I think that's going to make you pretty unique. And going on that onslaught type route, if they're not able to run the ball, gives you access to all the touchdown upside. Mike Evans has been a great target for Baker Mayfield. Maybe we go to Godwin, kind of like the flip-flop zigzag narrative there. And then, I'm always going to want to play, and this is 3 max. I think if you're full fading Jamar Chase, I think it's a mistake. Even on main slates all season long, I'm always making sure I have some exposure to Jamar Chase. Stats. It's like what we talked about before the show started with Justin Fields. It's, you're running 150. The guy, at least last year, broke 3 slates. Jamar Chase has that same type of upside as well. So, I just think it's a mistake full fading a guy like that. Stats, any final comment on the wide receiver position?
No, I mean, I think we pretty much nailed it. I would try not to get too I'm not going to get too tricky at the wide receiver position because I think you can do some other things. I think you can get a little, even at the quarterback. I'd prefer going to one of the other quarterbacks than getting off some of the chalky wide receivers here because I can see where you have a build with again, if we think that Tampa game goes off where Mayfield is in the winner, like he may not outscore Hurts, but if they score enough points in that game, you can see where it's just all the receivers from that game, maybe two receivers from both sides plus a Mayfield plus the chalky running backs, like something like that, which would get you a little bit different on this. So I just think the wide receivers, nothing's easy to predict, but of all the positions, I think this would probably be the most predictable one outside of maybe Mixon being definitely in the mix. So I think Mixon is going to be in the winner, and I think you'll have one of the, there's a lot of them, but I don't think you're going to find one of the cheap wide receivers make their way into the nut lineup today. I think you might get one of the cheaper running backs or tight ends, and possibly get off of Hurts as the quarterback. But I think wide receiver is going to stay chalk.
Gotcha. Yep, I agree with that. Rubio, tight ends. What are you doing with the tight ends? Not a lot here. Not a lot to work with. Dallas Goedert, Tyler Higbee, and then you got Drew Sample. No Big Irv, I think, tonight, right?
Oh, yeah, no Big Irv. It almost reminds me of Durham Smythe yesterday. They're not going to do much, right? They're just going to sit there. I mean, Sample was a second-round pick, probably one of the worst draft picks in Bengals history, just in recent history, I should say. It was Zach Taylor's first time, and he was projected for like the 4th or 5th round. The Bengals ended up taking him in the 2nd round, and fans have been just waiting. Like, what's he do? What's he doing here? But maybe one of these guys. Look at the slate here. We get 30,000. We get 64% K-Dot, right? If they fluke into a touchdown, maybe there's a chance. But yeah, I mean, Dallas Goedert, they fed him a lot of balls last time out. Like they said, oh man, he can never end up with 0 catches in a game again, like he did in week 1. And sure enough, how many screen plays were ran for Dallas Goedert in the first quarter? Definitely made it, just kind of easy to kind of see what they're trying to do, right? We can expect Goddard to get the most catches maybe on the slate. Higbee very close behind. I don't know. I don't love Cade Otton, but he did play almost 100% of the snaps last week. He's going to be probably in a trailing script. Let's look at the positional matchup sheet too here. Like Philly has struggled slightly. Well, I mean, obviously when TJ Hawkinson goes nuclear in week 2, they struggled against the tight end last week, right? So we have that going for us. That makes sense why Cade Otton's hitting. I just don't see a reason to go these Bengals tight ends really at all. I don't think, you have 3 wide receivers who are very good. Mixon's decent with his hands too. Those guys just won't get involved in the pass game much at all outside a target or 2. I think it's a much better showdown play if you needed to jam the studs. I haven't looked at that showdown slate yet, but I can imagine that Sample and Wilcox are both min-price. And if you're trying to get Chase, with Burrow and, Stafford, whatever, then those tight ends come into play, but not in the classic 2-game slate, in my opinion. But yeah, nothing more I can really add.
Yeah, tight end's been a pretty frustrating position all season long, made slates as well. Pat Freiermuth, though, last night, he got it done, which was nice. But stats, what are you doing at the tight end position? Not a lot to work with. Goddard probably kind of on an island up there alone from a projection standpoint. But what are you doing at the tight end spot?
Yeah, I mean, Goddard is the best, or at least going to be the highest projected. Didn't have a great week last week, but he got 7 targets, caught 6 of 7, but got absolutely no yardage, no touchdowns, right? So 22 yards on 6 catches is just amazing. But so I would expect a little bit more production here. I mean, I like Otton a little bit more maybe than Rubio does, just because I like the game script there. And Otton gets a ton of, he's going to get a lot of the work, and he's going to be on the field. So, I mean, he was 6 of 6 last week, 41 yards, hasn't got a touchdown yet. If he just gets you, if he can get that type of production, look for, 6 to 8 targets, catch 6 of them, and get 1 in the end zone, then he's the guy. So I think at 3,000, if you're looking to save some money, I think Otton's is the choice. I mean, Higbee, I think you're taking a little bit more of a risk. I do like the matchup for Higbee in this game, but at 4,400, like, I just think if you need the savings, there's a big differential down to Otton, and I can't see why. There's not, to me, that big of a difference in relation to the price in Otton over one of these other guys. I think maybe his upside is a little bit more limited, but if we're strictly going to talk like who's going to win today, I don't think who's going to win at most points at that position, between 4,800 and 3,000, like, I don't think that I don't think he's that. I don't think Goddard is that much better than Otten. So I think you're getting a price. But again, it's if you're going to be going chalkier with the wide receivers and you need to save some money at the tight end position, then I like Otten. If you've got a ton of cash to play with, then Goddard's going to probably be the guy who scores the most.
Yeah, very good. I'm with you guys. Locked arm in arm. I'd prefer to punt the position if I can get to Goddard. I like that. Most likely looking at one of the tight ends in the first game, though, Goddard or Cade Otton. Defenses, let's just briefly touch on that. Then we'll pick the games, who we think's going to win, and favorite play, and we'll get out of here. Rubio, defense. I mean, 2 game slate. I know where I'm going. Probably the Bengals tonight. But what are you doing at the defensive spot?
Yeah, you see here the salary. It's $3,300 for the Eagles. Baker Mayfield's probably the most error-prone quarterback on the slate. He might be slinging some dimes to both teams here today. The Eagles' pass rush looks absolutely awesome too at times. Obviously, when a team drops back a lot against you because they can't run the ball, I mean, it helps out, right? So I think the Bengals also, it's kind of one of those things too where we have like 2-3 kind of pass funnels here. I mean, the Bengals, since DJ Reader has arrived from free agency a couple years ago, teams have never been really able to run the ball on them. And obviously, that's going to play in our hands tonight, right? Like Kyron Williams might be more involved in the pass game or whatever, but it'll be interesting. I think a lot of these pass funnels, the only defense I don't love is the Rams, but they're going against the gimpy Burrows. I mean, I think it's just a case of play whoever fits for the most part. I mean, I guess I don't really love the Bucks because obviously the matchup's probably the worst, and they run the ball very effectively too. I'd probably have the fewest of the Bucks, but then play whoever fits between the Rams, Bengals, Eagles. Make sure it correlates, of course, and then that would be it.
Yeah, very good. Stats. What about you? Defensive spot. What are you doing?
Yeah, I think the most important thing about the defense is how many offensive players will you play against the defense. So I think you can go up to 2 in a 2-game slate and be okay with that. So that does give you a little bit of leeway in most of your lineups. That you're not stacking one team or the other. You'll be able to get each of these defenses in. Oddly enough, listen, it's early in the season, so the data will get better as we go. But defenses against Philly have been better than any of these other teams so far. I don't know if I expect that to happen again tonight, but these teams have been actually really good. Against the defensive position. So but which defense do I like the best? I mean, it's going to have to go into that Bengals-Rams game, and I don't mind taking the Rams. I guess the Rams are probably going to be the chalkiest play. I'm thinking, but definitely it's going to be between or maybe the Eagles. But I don't know if I want to go up to 3,300 there. I think just from what I've seen from Mayfield early in the year, I mean, something seems to have clicked differently for him, and so I would be leaning more towards the Bengals-Rams game, and then defense is tricky as it is. So I'll take the if I could squeeze in the 2,800. I was just trying to make a build with Mayfield at the quarterback, trying to figure out with like the chalkiest plays, and I was like 200 over. So I'm messing around with it. But yeah, if you need the savings, then I don't mind the Rams defense here. And I think, like you said, where you said Burrow's probably going to be underowned, maybe the Rams defense is a little overowned because of that.
Yeah, very good. Historically, Stafford usually, or at least last year, was good with the ball. He had 2 picks last week. Maybe it's changing, just the lack of down the field weapons there. I like Joe Mixon. I really like the Bengals defense. I just think they need to have a big game. So that's most likely where I'm going. Hey, one last question real quick for stats. So I was monitoring Discord. Someone mentioned Puka's 6.5 reception prop. What does the app say? It's juiced right now to the over, but do you guys have the Sharp app? Do you guys have a take on the over or under with Puka's reception prop there?
I mean, I've got him. My projections have him at like 6.3, so unlikely much of a play. I got to look at the. I'd have to look on the app and see what the projections over there have for him, but I didn't notice. He definitely didn't pop up. I looked at reception props earlier, and it didn't prop up as a strong play on Puka. So I'm guessing that the projections in the app are going to be pretty close to what that number is. So 6.5. I don't know where the juice is. I'd have to bring up my the sports book. I don't know where the juice is at, but I think that's probably about the right number for him on this game. I don't really love it.
Given the fact that he's going to be mega chalk, and it's not like he's getting these targets way down the field. These are short blanket type targets. If he falls under that, I mean, he might be a really strong fade tonight. Like Rubio, I might be with you on that fade, and that instantly gets you different because he's just going to be so highly owned. And again, if he gives you a floor with the targets that he's going to get, but if he doesn't get in the box and if he is limited, I mean, it doesn't give you I hate saying like he doesn't have a ceiling. He's shown a massive ceiling, and if he gets in the box, he does. But if that prop projection is right, and if he falls under it, he's not going to get you a big score tonight. So again, I hesitate to say that because he's a very strong play, and it really comes down to what you're doing. But in larger field type of stuff, assuming he is highly owned, it's a really, really interesting fade, or at least being underweight. I mean, stats, are you fine being like in line with the field on a play like that? Do you take a stand being underweight, slightly overweight? I guess, do you have an approach on a guy like that?
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be owned to the point where I have to be all in on him. I kind of look at it like I like to be all in on one player on these type of slates, and I don't think it's going to be Puka here, just because I think you have so many options at the wide receiver position that you don't have to be. Usually it's going to be a running back more often than not. That'll be, so I could see going more on being all in on Mixon if you wanted to. Again, it's going to depend on what my ownership projections are, and I've got to go through that. If I think a running back, I mean, listen, I did it. It got me burned last week with Chubb. So I was 100% on Chubb, and he was going to be the nuts. So sometimes you're going to get burned on an injury like that. But if I get a guy who's going to be 75, 80%, then I like to just be all in. I think I mentioned it last week. Like, I'd rather just be all in on that guy because chances are he's going to be in the winning lineup, even if he doesn't have the game that we're expecting him to have. So Mixon's going to be close because he's not quite as good a play, I don't think, as Chubb was last week. So we'll see. But I don't. None of the wide receivers would be an all-in play, and I don't mind Puka if you want to be under the market on Puka. I don't mind that play at all because I could definitely see a game script where we just don't see what we've seen. The big numbers out of him. He'll have his catches. He'll have some yards, but there's so many other guys here. You could see that 4 receivers in that Philly game. Chase, even Tutu Atwell. I think Atwell could certainly beat him in this game in points. So I just don't think he's strong enough that I can go all in and guarantee. If you want to be over the market, that's fine. I just don't think I can push the all in button on him.
Gotcha. Very good. All right, let's pick the games, give our favorite play, and we'll get out of here. I got both favorites covering. I like Philly on the road, and I like the Bengals at home. Rubio, who do you got in each game?
I got Philadelphia Eagles. I don't see him misplacing a step here. Then Joey B. If you went outside now in Cincinnati by kickoff time, Joe Burrow is a football guy. He's going to go outside. He's going to smell the weather. He's like, this is football weather. And he's going to ball out tonight just because he's a football guy, AP. Joe Burrow tonight. Love it. Stats? Are we going to make it 3-0, or who do you got for each game?
I don't like any of them to bet. So I didn't put any bets in, but I'll give you my I'm going the other way. I'm going to take Tampa. To me, there's something's not right with the Philly defense. So I think Tampa's going to be able to stay in this game, keep it close. I think a lot of points. And I know you said you think maybe the Rams are a little overrated, or the Rams are not for real. I think the Rams are better than we think. So I'm going to go with the Rams. And again, there's everything's not right in Cincinnati right now. So I'm going to take the both dogs here tonight. I'm going to go with the Rams. I'm going to go with Tampa. Maybe not Tampa to win outright, but I think they'll keep it close enough. Yeah, I like it. We can't agree on everything. It's not what we're about. But Stats, keep it with you. Favorite play tonight? Joe Mixon? If I were, listening? Yeah.
correctly?
Yeah, it's probably Mixon. It would be Otten's close. I kind of want to throw Otten in there. If I had a core play, I might use Mixon, Otten, and trying to think the wide receiver position is so tough. There's so many good options, but Tutu Atwell I think is going to be in there as well.
Yeah, I like that. Rubio, favorite play tonight?
There was a wide receiver last Thursday night who was bitching about not getting the ball enough. He was begging for the ball. Jalen Hurts then threw him the ball 2 or 3 straight times in the end zone. One of them almost came down with. They called pass interference. It was a penalty that brought it back. A.J. Brown is my play of the day tonight because I think that A.J. Brown spent the last 10 days saying, I got to get the ball. I'm A.J. Brown. I'm the best wide receiver on this team. Debatable, right? Devontae Smith's been really good. I need the ball. And A.J. Brown, this is the spot for you. This is a 25-plus spot for A.J. Brown. Love pairing him with Hurts. He's going to be a showdown captain of mine in that first showdown of the night. Let's go AJB.
God, we are just very aligned today, Rubio, because that was who I was looking at. I'm going to go, though, another guy on the opposite side in this game. Playing on that zigzag theory, Mike Evans went off last week. I think it's going to be a Godwin. A Godwin day. So you got the Jalen Hurts to Brown, run it back with Godwin, a nice standard stack right there. All right, there you have it. We got an aggressive agenda today. On the way out, hit the like button, hit the subscribe. We appreciate all of you watching. We're going to go up to lock. We have a super show today. So it's going to start out with the Print Factory like we have each and every showdown slate with JSU and Big T. And then Wiley and JBC will take us up to lock. With that, for Rubio, for Stats, I'm AP. Let's get out of here.